Hey everyone, it's Shreya again. Today we have a couple of our brilliant alumni from the batch of 2021. Firstly, congratulations, guys. We are so proud of you, and let me tell you one thing every one of your juniors looks up to you guys on what you have done and where you are now, including me. Today, we have Harsh Venkat, who is committed to Ashoka University as an economics major. We have Meghna Sriram, who is committed to Boston University as a trustee scholar for the class of 2025 as a biology major. There are academic advantages of being the trustee scholar, and the university has also offered her a full ride. It's amazing to hear that. Congratulations, Meghna. We also have Nishka Srivatsa, who is committed to the University of Toronto as a life science major. And finally, we have Tanay Patel, who has also committed to the University of Toronto, but as an engineering major. I'm sure our student body is eager to get to know more about what they can do to get into their dream colleges. And I'm also sure each one of you would have had a spike. And so today we're going to be talking about that, your high school stats, SAT, ACT, extracurriculars, and also about why you decided to go with your major and university that you have committed to. So, firstly, why don't you guys tell us a bit about yourselves and why you picked the major and university you have committed to? Harsh, can you please start us off?
Yeah, sure. So it's an interesting idea, this whole podcast thing. So I've written some notes also in preparation for it. So again, as you mentioned, I'm going to Ashoka and I'm planning to major in economics, although it's a liberal arts program. My thinking, and I should link this also to my experience at APL, it was essentially that I didn't know what to take. And someone who took literature in 10th grade, I took literature and I took chemistry, physics, math, and I took economics, a little bit all over the place. Main reason I want to study economics is because I think it gives me options later on in life I can go into the sciences to some extent. I can go into the humanities to some extent. It gives me options to diversify later. And that's why I'm passionate about economics. Also, it has maths, which I enjoy quite a bit.
That's nice. Meghna, what about you?
Great. So as you mentioned, I'm majoring in biology. And I think I've known I wanted to do biology for a long time, but I just don't know whether it's going to be through medicine or research or something else. So I think Boston and like the northeastern part of the United States has a lot of opportunities for medical research and like pharmaceutical nearby. So it's one of the reasons I chose to attend BU. And the money it didn't hurt. So
okay. Nishka, what about you?
Hi. So I'm also majoring in life sciences at the University of Toronto. There's like academic prestige-ish reasons for choosing it. There's also practical reasons, being that I got a scholarship and I have family there, so that's a good choice.
That's
but
amazing.
Also U of T is like the global leader in biological research, and Canada itself is a pretty great place to be if you want to get into the field. So I thought, why not? It's a pretty great package.
That's nice. What about you, Tanay?
As you mentioned earlier, I'm doing engineering at University of Toronto, and they actually have a really good startup ecosystem there. So it is really great for startups. It is really good for people who want to ideate and bring their own business to life. And apart from that, they have a really diverse engineering committee. So that is what I look forward to as well. So it gives us a lot of different factors that we can consider, because University of Toronto as a whole is very diverse. So I guess that was one of the reasons. And again, the engineering committee and the department is very prestigious, as Nishka mentioned.
That's nice. It's so cool to hear about the actual reasons why you guys have picked that particular university, because I'm sure you would have gotten into many good universities, but I was particularly curious to know why you guys picked the ones you picked. And wow, you've given me a good reason to apply to these colleges. So moving on, what were your stats like, in a sense, your grades throughout high school? And is it true that you have to be a person who gets straight A's and so many awards and things like that to get into a good university? Harsh, you can start us off again.
Right. So to be honest, I mean, my answer comes to me in three parts. First is I failed some PLPs and whatnot. Somewhat ashamed to say, but essentially, if I was doing something at the point like an MUN, or I was even studying for another subject which I'd fallen a little bit behind, I failed chemistry multiple times. That's just normal, right? Any of your teachers, common teachers, can mention that to you. So in that sense, I think that while it is important to be consistent, and it's something I seek to be in college, I think worrying about it is not very helpful, especially if you're able to get your grades up by the end and when you come to your board exams. With that said, certainly having all A's and getting good grades and having good academics are important. But another vital consideration is that for a lot of colleges, especially at least my understanding outside of India, all your academics are used as a cutoff point. And after you reach, say for example, you get A's in all of your subjects, you're I've had friends, not just at our school, get worried about like getting an 87 or getting a 93, right? And it's like, yes, there is a difference, but a lot of colleges, at least the ones that I've applied to, consider it as, hey, if you've got above an A, we're not going to look at your academics anymore. We're going to look at what else you can do to stand out. And grades, just given that everyone has them, aren't a way to stand out. So I think that's also important to consider.
Okay. What about you, Meghna?
I think personally, it was just my personal ambition to maintain higher grades throughout high school. Like I was striving towards A's and A stars throughout IGCSE and A levels. But like Harsh said, it's definitely not a requirement to get into a great school anywhere across the world, because colleges look well beyond GPA at this point, and they actually focus a lot more on your essays and your extracurriculars and your volunteer experience, because they want to kind of see that like the well-rounded personality as a whole. So while grades are the starting point into getting into a good college, a lot more matters than them. So,
do you agree with what they said, Nishka?
Yeah, I mean, so for me personally, like Meghna said, I wanted good grades. I think that definitely helped. I'm sure it didn't hurt. But like they said, it's not the only thing, but I'd like to talk a bit about why. So the point of a good grade is to make sure the university thinks your application is worth considering, basically, right? Like this person brings academic rigor to our university. So if you're someone who doesn't want to focus on grades, don't take it as, oh, well, Harsh and Meghna said, don't care about your grades, I'm not going to care about my grades. You need to look at what your application looks like. If you know that you have a different niche, like if you say, I am a sports achiever, or I'm really into dance and I've been committed to this throughout my life, and that's the focus of your application, and that's what you think you'll bring to that university, then you should focus on that. But you should be just as diligent towards that as you would towards your grades, you know? So yeah, grades aren't the only thing, for sure, and you should work on your extracurriculars, but make sure you're building these things towards something and you're doing it diligently. I think the specific thing you're building may not matter as much as long as you're committed to it.
Okay, well said, by the way, well said. What about you, Tanmay?
I'll actually go along with all of them. So as Harsh mentioned earlier, that it'll let you reach to a certain level. And after that, there are multiple other factors that matter. So consistency is a thing. And I guess like everyone, even I wanted to maintain a consistent score, but like there are a few other people who only perform in the board exams in the final. But during the COVID situation, you know what happened with them. So it's better to have a consistent grade throughout your high school, but it is again a personal choice. And you should always keep in mind the university you're applying to. So if it's a university in India, then you'll definitely need a higher grade. And if it's a university in Singapore or some areas which are very academically focused, then it is definitely good to have a higher grade. But recently, many colleges have changed their approach, and they also look at other perspectives like sports, volunteering, and achieving in like MUN and other stuff like that. Definitely your essays. So there are a lot of other things to focus on as well, but grades are important till a certain extent.
Okay, so you don't have to be a person that gets straight A's and awards that are like national level and things like that. But so college admission officers, that's not the only thing they look at. They look at the person you are as a whole, right? So overall, good answers, guys. But moving on.
May I just
Yeah?
intrude a little bit, Shreya? I actually want to stress that point that I made because, to be honest,
Okay, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
looking back on my high school years, I think the biggest mistake I've made is something. I mean, I hope to learn from Nishka, Meghna, and Tanmay for my college years, which is that without I was quite inconsistent with especially economics, which like at one point I was getting A stars in my exams, my mocks, and this and that, and at one point that went down to getting C's and D's. And that the lack of consistency really screwed me over, if I may speak like that, during the COVID situation, right? So I registered for May, June, and I'm sure all of you know how that ended up panning out. So I think that consistency has to be stressed. And also, Nishka's point is also extremely valuable, which is we are applying to academic institutions. So if only if you show some academic rigor, do they think that you can use their facilities well? But go on.
Okay, yeah, moving on. Did the subject choices offered at APL give you the advantage and meet the requirements of the undergraduate program? Like you guys did AS and A levels and IGCSE, right? Is that equally looked at in the US as compared to AP or an IB curriculum? Harsh.
I think before recording, Mishka also said she has one word answer to this, which is just yes. Right? Overall, anyway, since academics aren't weighted, I mean, they're not too highly weighted, especially abroad. They are weighted equally. Some college, a good number of colleges in India, Ashoka is not one of these, and some of these newer universities work similar to the way universities abroad do. But so, for instance, a friend of mine applied to Christ. And essentially, her B in A levels was considered equal to a B in CBSE, right, or a B equivalent grade. And so some universities are yet to understand that, especially in India. But outside of India, pretty much everyone recognizes A levels.
Okay, so I think, do you guys agree with what Harsh said?
Definitely colleges look at all curriculums equally, but personally, I felt like at least the Cambridge curriculum for me was more of an advantage than the AP curriculum, because I think when you're looking at like intro classes as you get into college in the US, mainly I actually got I got out of a lot of the intro courses because I guess the A-level curriculum was equivalent to the intro college curriculum in the US.
Yeah.
So I think in that way it was an advantage, because when I was looking at some of the AP credits, A-levels got a lot more college credits than some of the AP classes did. So I think, number one, it doesn't matter what curriculum you do, they look at everything equally. But if we want to talk about A-levels being an advantage, this is definitely one of the ways that it could be an advantage for us.
Okay. So, Nishka.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Meghna. I'm also getting a lot of credits for my A levels, so the IGCSE curriculum in that way is definitely beneficial. But we'll be happy to I came up with a few more words than one word. So in my IGCSE, actually, APL gives a pretty broad sort of spectrum of subjects that you're allowed to study, and I did that ICE thing, which it's kind of like a certificate saying you studied a variety of courses, and I think that was definitely a benefit to me, because for a diversity of interests and exploring many options is something that is appreciated abroad. So having that ICE certificate was definitely helpful. So if that's something you're looking into, especially if you're looking into doing something in arts or something that's outside of science and commerce, APL subjects are a huge advantage. And the other thing was, as Harsh was mentioning, in Indian universities, you might be worried about them not accepting A levels, and you can speak to our academic counselors about this, because I'm not an expert, but you do get an equivalency certificate that it basically equates your grades to CBSE. So there are ways of getting into Indian colleges as well. If that's something you're worried about, but I think A levels are an advantage overall.
Okay. So Tanmay, what about you?
Yeah, I actually wanted to stress the point on the equivalence certificate as well, as Nishka mentioned. So if you are applying to an Indian college, you should definitely aim for that, because that will give you something similar instead of like an estimate. So it goes through a proper process and they'll evaluate it equally, and then they'll give you proper grade. But I feel that if you're taking A levels and if you're going to apply to an Indian college, you might have a drawback, because I as you know, in COVID, everybody got almost 95% plus in CBSE and state board. So A-level students,
yeah.
I mean, IGCSE students might have a drawback, but I guess that is again a personal point of view. And apart from that, I just think there is a big hype about AP courses and calculus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the course, it's almost like a 10th grade, 11th grade math that we do in IGCSE. So that again gives us a boost in the college courses where like you have to just refresh your knowledge, and those foundation courses, you might be able to skip them. But I guess again, that is a college preference. So yeah, A-levels do give you some sort of an advantage, and they obviously give you a different point of view to study, because we just don't study from like those book kind of learning.
Yeah.
We also have labs and practicals. So that does give you an advantage. So I believe that A-levels do have an advantage.
Okay, so this is a very important question, and I know a lot of people who wish to get into an Ivy League school, and there have been people with perfect scores and grades, but still they haven't gone into these schools. What do you guys think about the Ivy League schools? Is it just a name, or does it carry any value in the future, for example, work? And how do you think the application process in general works there? Harsh, you can start us off. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, like I can only contribute in one way because I didn't apply to any of the Ivies.
Okay.
But essentially, like the name, the Ivy League itself is just a sports league. So that's an important factor to consider. Don't just go for university because it's called part of the Ivy League. Look at how they are for your particular subject. Like there are even universities in India, outside of India. Like I was looking at NYU Abu Dhabi.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
And essentially, one of the considerations, but I realized something very later, which is that, hey, it's a really cool place, gives scholarships and whatnot, but not that great for economics, right? And that was a consideration I made far later on. And that's, if anything, that's one bit of advice, which is there may be some really good universities that are horrible for your subject, and there may be some universities that aren't as highly ranked overall, but they may be really, really right for you in whatever way. Like Nishka mentioned that her relatives live in Toronto also. And the scholarship and whatnot. Those are also other very important factors to consider.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what about you, Meghna?
Great. So as Harsh said, the Ivy Leagues are great schools, okay? But there are a lot of other universities around the world that are equally as good. So the Ivy Leagues are great, but they aren't everything. So it's probably more important to find an environment you think you'd fit into rather than joining a college like only based on its name, because your interactions that you're going to have over the 4 years are probably what's going to determine what you get out of your college experience rather than the name of your school. Okay. But I think the application to any Ivy League would be no different than any other university, but each college obviously has its own standard GPA, test scores, and credentials that applicants usually have to meet to be considered. But there's no like real template on how to be an Ivy League applicant. So it's open-ended. I mean, if you're passionate enough and they think you'd make a great addition to their school, they'll take you. Otherwise, it's a black box.
Okay. What about you, Nishka?
Oh, this could be a long-winded answer, so get ready. The Ivy League, first of all, no one can deny that they're excellent universities. Like the kind of faculty and the kind of resources is there. There's a reason that they're Ivy, you know. But again, like Meghna said, they are not everything. But first, that's because you asked about application. Let's talk about the application. It is a black box, and I'm saying that because there's no real way to be an ideal Ivy candidate. Like you could, let's say you saw a candidate last year and you emulated them exactly, and there's still no chance you're going to get in this year because these classes, they basically construct their class. Okay, so they might choose one person because they have really good grades, and they might choose another person because they have a really niche, weird interest that they think would diversify their class, you know. And a lot of these also have like this, all these quotas to fill, and they're private colleges, so basically they might have, you know, their own, the people they want to admit themselves. So it's, when they say black box, it basically means there's no set way, like this is after this percentile you're definitely getting in, after this you're not. So in that sense, never, if you want to apply and you don't get it, never feel like I wasn't good enough. Just say I didn't fit in, because that's closer to the truth. But so as far as applications are concerned, that's the Ivy League. And like Harsh and Meghna said, I think subject rankings are a lot more important than general perception or overall rankings, because like you mentioned NYU, right? I got NYU, but I wasn't even tempted to go because for my subject, it wasn't ranked very well at all. And there's some really good universities that are ranked below the University of Toronto when it comes to life sciences, even though their name is really famous. So,
Yeah.
you have to consider all of these things. I think how well they're doing in your field specifically is the most important thing to consider, rather than, the
Looking at the
overall.
name in general, yeah.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. Because the name isn't going to get you far beyond like, oh, congratulations, beta. Like,
And
I
like
don't
the
think that's
yeah.
yeah,
But like when you're talking about like work, like jobs, like after you're done with 4 years of college, and you have like, for example, Harvard is really good for biology, right? As a biology major, it's really good to get. I mean, like on your resume, if it says you have graduated from Harvard, what is it like? Do they? I mean, like for example, would they prefer to go with a person who has been admitted, who has graduated from Harvard, than maybe from somewhere else? Or like, is there like a comparison between the two or something like that, or is it just the same
So let you know
equally?
that I speak from a place of no expertise whatsoever, but I think, okay, so the first like that wow factor of Harvard versus other universities is there, but I genuinely feel like when it comes to, like I said, applications in your field, just that name is not enough. If you go to Harvard and then you go to, like for example, there's this university in Germany that's in top 5, and there's a company in a university in China that's top 5 for engineering, right? If you get into that university versus something that's a lot lower, within the industry they recognize that these students have that caliber. There's a reason those universities gets highly ranked.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say there's absolutely no difference, because there will be in some applications, but I think overall you can't base your job applications on the wow factor of the name.
Right.
And most universities, you will end up somewhere. Like, this is undergrad, you might want to do a master's, you might want to study further. There's a world of opportunity just when you start off with undergrad. So yeah, I don't think that name alone is enough to get you into a job.
Okay.
Right, but just to add one point to what you mentioned, Nishka, essentially, if there are certain ideas that can get your foot in the door. So going to an Ivy League can help. Going to even like some of the top universities in India can help. So like an IIM or an IIT. Even if the person is a complete idiot, if they're able to go into IIT for whatever it is, you'll at least hear them out.
Fair, they might not. They probably won't.
but point is that the two considerations. First is what, at least in my head, matters a lot more is you can check the employability score of that particular college. What do employers actually think of that place? Because in the industry, people have a way better idea than you or I might. Oh wow, that person got to Harvard, but there might be one niche school in whatever Switzerland that helps a lot more for that specific. And second factor is, keep in mind, a lot of people tend to not consider this, but your major matters quite a bit, right? So there are people who are, at least I'm not going to mention any particular majors, but there are people who are going to be my classmates at Ashoka who are looking at majors that without any idea of where they want to actually go. Keep in mind that this is also like a certificate that you get, right? And thinking of it like a certificate that can give you chances later on, I think is a lot more helpful, because sure, you'll have a good experience studying that subject, but you also need it as a proper qualification, and even a little bit more even than like what university you're going to. So like a STEM degree in the US especially is extremely, extremely valuable. And oftentimes people will consider like say humanities degrees in like better universities, and sure they have some value, but your major does have at least equal value in that sense. If you get a STEM degree, it does have a lot more.
Wait, there's another point I wanted to bring up. I mean, like we were talking about grades before this, right? So obviously, like Nishka was saying, if you're someone who's maybe a sports-centered person, or you focused on your extracurriculars, and that was what got you into college, and you go to a higher-ranked university, there's a lot of pressure for you to maintain a specific GPA. And I think GPA matters a lot more in college than maybe it might in high school. And when you're looking for jobs afterwards and they're looking at your transcript and you had a difficult time adjusting to such a hard curriculum that you couldn't maintain the GPA you wanted, it might be more of an advantage for you to go to a smaller school where you could maintain your grades as well as everything else you were doing, than going to a more prestigious school where there's a lot more pressure on you to get good grades. because that would probably open a lot more opportunities for you in the end. So there's always that to consider.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, no, I think I heard Malcolm Gladwell. My dad is a real fan of the author, and he mentions he mentions at one point that he says, "Hey, I looked at the bottom 5% of Harvard and the top 5% of one specific community college, right?" And he's like, the people in the community college got the degree, didn't drop out of college, and they did pretty well, right?
Yeah.
They got, at the same time, they got way lower, like for instance, SAT scores than the bottom 5% at Harvard. Bottom 5% at Harvard had no degree, right? They dropped out, right? And I'm not saying you're Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg kind. Yeah, right? So keep that in mind also, right? You also need to go to a place that you can actually get value from.
Okay.
Last point.
Yeah, sure.
A second. So another point was that it's not just about the name, it's also about what you do with your university. Okay, like even once you get in, there's all sorts of opportunities at university that might actually be more accessible to you in maybe a smaller university than a larger one. So like there's co-op programs and there's industry experts you could meet, and my advice is wherever you go, just grab as many opportunities as possible. Like you see the sign sheet and you sign up for basically everything, even though you don't attend things, because all of these things end up mattering, right? These people, it's not just about I want Harvard grads only, it's also about like I want people who have this much experience in the industry, or I want people who've tried their hand out at this thing. So I think whatever university you get into, if you take advantage of all the opportunities you get, that might be, you'll have a much easier job hunt than someone else in a different university might.
Okay. Tanvi, do you want to add something to this entire discussion that we just had?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll just speak from my personal experience.
Sure.
So I think from a point of view from the community, Ivy League is something very prestigious, and they don't understand the value that they provide. So sometimes if for example, let's say I got into Harvard, but I got into Harvard for computer science, it is not the same. So people need to understand that as well, because my grandmother, she just read an article in the newspaper about the Ivy League schools, and she was like, oh, wow, this, that, and you should get into that. But like, there are much better schools over the world, like in Germany, who always top like SpaceX programs and stuff like that. So I think you should also consider your major, as Harsh mentioned, and yes, you should always explore all the other universities, because Ivy Leagues have a lot of pressure. So that can also be another factor. You should consider like probably going to a less prestigious college, but like performing really well in it as well.
Yeah, because GPA matters there as well. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so let's move on from this and let's go to let's talk about standardized testing. So we have the SAT, ACT, TOEFL, etc. Firstly, which test did you guys take and why? Harsh.
Okay, please skip me for this, because my standardized testing scores are the one regret I have from like all of my high school academic life, because I really underestimated. I did the SAT, and if there's any advice I can give you is don't be an idiot like me. I underestimated the exam quite a lot, in the sense that while the concepts no doubt are easy, like any 10th grade student will be comfortable with concepts, really anyone, right? But the point is that it's a lot about cracking the exam specifically. And another factor is one little bit of advice I can give you. It's that, hey, if you do the practice test, since College Board is a private organization, they want you to take the SAT more times, and they control the SAT tests that are out there.
That's very true.
And given that, so they essentially give you the easiest tests, and even if they give you the decently hard test, they give it to the US grading curve. So like I got 1550 to 1600 many times, especially in the last week of practice before my second SAT, but I ended up scoring a 14.8. Right? So
that's
keep
still
that in mind.
That's not bad or anything.
I mean, I like talk to Nishka and Megha, right? I think that they have a better idea of it, and to be honest, I need to learn a lot more, especially with things like GRE and whatnot for college. So skip me, please.
Okay, what about you, Meghna?
Okay, so I took the SAT personally. I took it one time and it worked out well for me. It was probably just due to luck. I think I took the ACT because I felt like there were more resources to study for it, and I had more people I could talk to for advice on the SAT because very few people I knew had taken the ACT then. But it actually doesn't really matter which one you take as long as you focus on your strengths, I think. And like even though I'm majoring in biology, I chose the SAT over the ACT because math was my strong suit, and it really boosted my score on the whole because the SAT is a very math-heavy test. So it doesn't really matter. You don't have to centralize the test based on what you want to study in the future. You just have to focus on the best, on the way you can get a best score, because that's all kind of that matters in the end. So SAT versus ACT, the decision doesn't matter. It play to your strengths, take both the tests, see which one you work best with, and then choose based on that.
Okay, so if I'm not wrong, you took both SAT and ACT, right?
Me?
Yeah.
I only took the SAT. I decided not to take the ACT
Okay.
because I was okay with my score.
Okay. What about you, Nishka?
Oh God, standardized tests. Okay. Firstly, which ones did I take? I took the SAT, which I got a good, like I got 1550. ACT, I got same percentile. I took 3 subject SATs. I took bio, maths, and chemistry. Yeah, I was happy with my score in those 2. Excuse me. And I took, you're talking about the English language ones. I took IELTS for that, and yeah, I mean the score was fine in that too. Yeah, I mean I always think that test taking isn't about knowledge; it's about how well you can write tests.
Yeah.
And you can be angry with that, or you can't be angry. That's just, I think it's a lot easier to learn how to write a test than it is to gain a lot of knowledge, right? So I think practice tests have been the key for me. Like Harsh said, people don't tend to do as well on your SATs as they do on the practice test. But in any case, it's about time management, and like you could cut your time short by 5 minutes every time if you feel like you may not perform as well in your actual hall, and you can do a lot of tests again and again. There's resources everywhere. I bought a lot of those books, but there's all these different companies that do it. Another thing I think you'd be encouraged to keep in mind is that our syllabus and their syllabus and the American syllabus basically is not the same. So for example, I wrote the subject test for bio, right? There's a lot of concepts, like very, very niche specific concepts that we just don't learn. Like there's this one specific organism, for example, there'll be 3 questions about it because it's the case study in America apparently, and we've never heard about it because it's not relevant to our syllabus. And so it's like you might get A stars here, but you should still buy a book that covers the basic concepts first before you jump into practice tests, because you will not get those questions, I promise you. And it'd be very demoralizing. Oh, no, I don't know anything. You know things. You just need to study them,
Right.
So, yeah.
I think now that the subject tests are cancelled, you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Well, Shreya, it's a lot of effort, okay?
Yeah, I know.
The scores are with me. But yeah, I mean, I did submit my score. Yeah, I did tell my...
Wait, so
in
did
Canada,
you-
for example, I did submit my score.
Did you submit both SAT and ACT or just one? The better one?
Because they were the exact, like 1550 here and
Okay.
35 there, right? So it was
Yeah.
like the exact same percentile, and I was like, you know what? Look at my dedication, if nothing else.
Okay.
I did submit
What
that.
about you, Tanmay?
To be honest, I'm in the same line as Harsh. The first SAT I took, I got 1250 on it, I think, and I really underestimated it. But like it eventually boils down to preference. So after the SAT I took, I tried ACT and I felt I was better off with it. So you should explore both the options and just see which one suits you better and which one you're more confident with. So it's not really like if you're doing an economics major, you have to take like a ACT test. You shouldn't take an ACT test because like it involves science. You can still take it, but it's just that it's your preference. So in ACT you have less time but more questions, whereas in SAT you have a little bit more time and less questions. So you should honestly do both and see which one works well for you.
Okay.
And
That makes sense.
apart from that, you should also consider what your college requirements are. So for Canada, we really didn't need SAT or ACT, but it is always a bonus to have them. we could just take IELTS and just prove them that we are proficient in English, so they'll accept us. So that was the requirement for Canada for engineering that I was aware of. So
Okay.
I just needed to take IELTS, but like if you're applying to maybe US, you might definitely need ACT or SAT.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.